I still see him sometimes, in the corner of my eye, walking past my window at night. Lawrence Adebayo, the man who died twice. My name is Tunde, and I worked at DX Communications for 15 years. I was there when it all happened. I wish I wasn't. Some things, once you know them, they change you. They make you question everything, life, death, and whatever lies between. It started on a Tuesday morning in March 2019. I remember because my daughter had just started secondary school that week. The call came in around 10 a.m. There had been an accident at the Benue site. Lawrence had fallen from the telecom mast. Lawrence was our regional operations manager. Smart guy. Always wore those thick-rimmed glasses that made him look like a professor. He'd been with the company for 8 years, worked his way up from field engineer, had a wife, Kemi, and 2 kids. David was 7, little Favor was 4. The mast he fell from was 150 feet high. They said his safety harness failed. When the rescue team got to him, he was already gone. His hard hat was cracked clean through, blood everywhere. The site supervisor, a man named Joseph, threw up when he saw the body. We shut down operations for the day. Everyone was in shock. Lawrence wasn't just a colleague. He was the kind of person who remembered your birthday, who asked about your sick mother, who covered for you when you needed to leave early for your kids' school play. The funeral was on a Saturday. The whole office showed up. Kemi wore black and didn't cry, just stared straight ahead like she was looking at something none of us could see. The kids didn't understand. David kept asking when Daddy was coming back from his trip. That's when Williams Adebayo entered the picture. He'd been gunning for Lawrence's position for years. Always thought he deserved it more. 2 days after the funeral, 2 days! He was sitting in Lawrence's office, feet up on the desk, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Such a tragedy, Williams said at the Monday morning meeting, not looking tragic at all. But Lawrence would want us to move forward. He always said the work must continue. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. You know, I warned him about being too careful on those masts. Sometimes being too cautious makes you nervous, makes you second-guess yourself. That's when accidents happen. The room went cold. Lawrence was the most safety-conscious person in the company. He'd written our safety protocols. He checked his equipment 3 times before any climb. The idea that he had fallen because he was too careful was absurd. But Williams wasn't done. I'll be implementing some changes to his projects. Lawrence had some interesting ideas about our expansion into the eastern states, ideas that frankly weren't in the company's best interest. That's when people started whispering. Lawrence had discovered something about the eastern expansion project, something about inflated contracts, money disappearing into ghost companies. He'd been gathering evidence, planning to present it to the board, and now he was dead. But we had no proof. The police investigation concluded it was an accident. Faulty equipment, they said. The harness manufacturer took the blame. Case closed. Life moved on the way it does. Kemi got a job at a bank, the kids started school, Williams settled into his stolen throne. Those of us who knew better kept our heads down and our mouths shut. What else could we do? Then, Banjo saw him. Banjo, real name Benjamin, but everyone called him Banjo because he played guitar, had left DX Communications 6 months before Lawrence died, moved to Lagos for a better opportunity with Globocom. We'd lost touch the way former colleagues do. It was a Friday night in April 2020, over a year after Lawrence's death. Banjo was at the Garden restaurant in Victoria Island, meeting a client. The client was late, so Banjo was sitting alone, scrolling through his phone, when someone called his name. Banjo, is that you? He looked up and nearly dropped his phone. Lawrence Adebayo was standing there, smiling, wearing a blue suit Banjo had seen him wear 100 times. Lawrence? Banjo's voice came out as a whisper. "In the flesh! What are you doing here? Still with Glow?" Banjo couldn't speak. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. This was Lawrence. Same face, same voice, same way of tilting his head when he asked a question. Yes, still with Glow, Benjo managed. "What about you? Still at DX?" Lawrence's smile flickered for just a moment. "Taking a break. You know how it is. The corporate world can drain you." They talked for 20 minutes. Normal conversation. Work, family, the economy. Lawrence ordered palm wine. His favorite, Banjo remembered. He complained about Lagos traffic, joked about his kids growing too fast. Everything was normal, except for the fact that Lawrence Adebayo was supposed to be dead. When Banjo's client finally arrived, Lawrence stood to leave. "Great seeing you, brother. Take care of yourself." "Wait," Banjo said. "What's your number? We should catch up properly." Lawrence rattled off a number. Banjo saved it immediately, even called it right there to make sure Lawrence had his number too. The phone in Lawrence's pocket rang. Everything checked out. "One thing," Lawrence said, and his face went serious. "Don't tell anyone you saw me. Not yet. There are complications. You understand?" Banjo didn't understand, but he nodded anyway. Lawrence walked out of the restaurant and disappeared into the Lagos night. Banjo couldn't concentrate on his meeting. His client probably thought he was drunk or sick. As soon as he could politely escape, he went home and locked himself in his bedroom. His wife knocked on the door. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he lied. "Just tired." He sat on his bed staring at Lawrence's number in his phone. This was impossible. People don't just come back from the dead. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it wasn't Lawrence. Maybe it was someone who looked like him. A twin brother nobody knew about? But no, it was Lawrence. Same scar on his left eyebrow from a childhood accident, same way of laughing with his whole body, same everything. At midnight, Banjo couldn't take it anymore. He called Sean. Sean still worked at DX Communications. Good guy, reliable, not prone to gossip or drama. If anyone would give him straight answers, it would be Sean. "Banjo, long time. How's Lagos treating you?" Good. Listen, I have a weird question. What happened to Lawrence Adebayo? Did he leave the company?" There was silence on the other end. "Banjo, what kind of question is that? Just tell me. Did he quit? Get fired? What?" "Brother, Lawrence died over a year ago. Fell from a mast in Benue. You know this. You sent flowers to the funeral." Banjo's hands were shaking. "Which Lawrence are you talking about?" "Which Lawrence? There was only one Lawrence Adebayo at DX Communications, Regional Operations Manager. What's going on?" "I just had drinks with him tonight at the Garden restaurant." Now it was Sean's turn to be silent. "That's not funny, Banjo." "I'm not joking. I sat with him for 20 minutes. We talked about work, about his kids. He gave me his number." "You're scaring me now. Lawrence is dead. I was at his funeral. I saw them lower the coffin into the ground. Check the news if you don't believe me. Google his name." Banjo hung up and opened his laptop. His fingers trembled as he typed "Lawrence Adebayo, DX Communications, death" into the search bar. The results came up immediately. News articles, obituaries, a memorial page on the DX Communications website. Pictures of Lawrence, the same man he'd just been drinking with. Articles about the accident, the investigation, the funeral. Telecom engineer falls to death from mast. DX Communications mourns loss of regional manager. Safety questions raised after telecom workers' fatal fall. Banjo ran to the bathroom and vomited. When he came back, he grabbed his phone to call the number Lawrence had given him. He needed answers. He needed to understand what was happening. "The number you have dialed does not exist." He tried again. Same message. He checked his call history. The call he'd made at the restaurant, when Lawrence's phone had rung right in front of him, it wasn't there, as if it had never happened. Banjo didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the night after that. Meanwhile, in Ibadan, Kemi Adebayo was trying to move on with her life. It hadn't been easy. Lawrence had been the breadwinner. The company had paid out his life insurance and benefits, but money was still tight. She'd gotten a job at First Bank working as a customer service officer. Her mother had moved in to help with the kids. The calls started 3 months after Lawrence died. The first time, she thought it was a wrong number. The phone would ring, she'd answer, and there would be silence. Not dead air. She could hear breathing, but whoever it was wouldn't speak. After a week of this, she stopped answering unknown numbers, but the calls kept coming. Different numbers each time, sometimes in the middle of the night. "Who is doing this?" she asked her sister one day. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Her sister suggested changing her number, but Kemi refused. What if Lawrence's colleagues needed to reach her? What if there was more insurance money or benefits she didn't know about? The calls continued for months. Then one night, in May 2020, something different happened. It was 2 a.m., the phone rang. Half asleep, Kemi answered without checking the number. "Hello?" Breathing. But this time, there was something familiar about it, a rhythm she recognized. "Who is this?" she whispered. The breathing continued, in, out, the same way Lawrence used to breathe when he was thinking hard about something. "Lawrence!" The name escaped her lips before she could stop it. The line went dead. Kemi sat up in bed, heart pounding. She's losing her mind. Grief was making her imagine things. She needed help. The next Sunday, she went to see Prophet Samuel. Prophet Samuel ran the Celestial Church of Christ on Makola Road, a small congregation, but he had a reputation for spiritual insight. People said he could see things others couldn't. Kemi told him about the calls. Prophet Samuel listened, his face growing more serious with each word. "Bring me something that belonged to your husband, something he touched often," he said. Kemi brought Lawrence's watch the next day. The prophet held it, closed his eyes, and began to pray. Suddenly, his body went rigid. When he opened his eyes, they were completely white. "Your husband is not at rest," he said, but his voice was different, deeper. "He walks between worlds." What does that mean? "He has unfinished business, messages to deliver, truth to reveal." The prophet's body shook violently, then went still. When he opened his eyes again, they were normal. "The next time the phone rings, answer it and listen carefully." That night, the phone rang at exactly 2 a.m. Kemi answered. "Lawrence?" This time there was a voice, faint, like it was coming from very far away. "Kemi." She nearly dropped the phone. It was him. It was Lawrence's voice. "Lawrence, is it you? How is this possible?" "Listen. Carefully. Not much time." The voice faded in and out like a bad radio signal. "The children. Trust fund. Standard charter. Account number." He recited a series of numbers. Kemi scrambled for a pen, wrote them down with shaking hands. Password. Favor's birthday. "Lawrence, where are you? What happened to you?" "Williams. Dangerous. Evidence. My office. False bottom. Desk drawer." The line crackled with static. "Protect yourself. Protect the children. I love." The line went dead. She called back immediately. "The number you have dialed does not exist." She sat in the dark, staring at the number she'd written down. A trust fund? Evidence in his office? None of this made sense. The next morning, she went to Standard Chartered Bank. She was prepared to disappointment, prepared to discover this was all some elaborate grief-induced delusion. But the account existed. 5 million naira in a trust fund for David and Favor Adebayo, created 2 weeks before Lawrence died. The bank manager was surprised. "We've been trying to contact you about this account. Your husband set it up with very specific instructions. The funds can only be used for the children's education and welfare. He was very particular about that." Kemi's legs nearly gave out. How did Lawrence know he was going to die? Why didn't he tell her about the money? That evening, she called Sean at DX Communications. "I need to get into Lawrence's old office. There's something I need to check." That's William's office now, and he doesn't like people poking around. "Please, Sean, it's important." Sean was quiet for a moment. "Williams is traveling to Abuja tomorrow. Come by around 2 p.m. I'll say you're picking up some of Lawrence's personal items." The next day, Kemi stood in what was her husband's office. Everything had changed. Williams had redecorated, replaced Lawrence's simple furniture with gaudy executive pieces, but the desk, that was the same desk. She ran her hands along the drawers, feeling for anything unusual. In the bottom drawer, her fingers found a seam that shouldn't be there. She pressed, and a hidden compartment popped open. Inside were documents, contracts, bank statements, emails. Evidence of a massive fraud scheme. Williams and 3 other senior managers had been inflating contracts, creating shell companies, stealing millions from DX Communications. And at the bottom of the pile, a life insurance policy. Not the one the company knew about. A different one for 10 million naira with Kemi as the beneficiary. Purchased 1 week before Lawrence died. Lawrence knew someone was going to kill him. Kemi took photos of everything with her phone, then carefully replaced the documents. As she was leaving, she bumped into Williams in the hallway. "Mrs. Adebayo, what brings you here?" "Just picking up some things," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Williams studied her for a long moment. "How are the children?" "They're fine." Good. You know, if you ever need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask. Lawrence was like a brother to me." The lie was so smooth, so practiced. Kemi wanted to scream, to accuse him right there. But she thought of her children and stayed silent. That night, she sent the photos to the AFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. She also sent copies to 3 different newspapers and uploaded them to a cloud server. If anything happened to her, the truth would still come out. 2 weeks later, Williams Adebanji was arrested at his home. The investigation that followed uncovered a fraud network that had stolen over 500 million naira from DX Communications. 3 other managers were arrested. The scandal made national news. But Williams maintained his innocence about Lawrence's death. There was no evidence linking him to the accident. The investigation had been closed. Without new evidence, the police wouldn't reopen it. That's when things got stranger. I was working late one night in July 2020. The office was empty except for security. I was finishing a report when I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Hello?" I called out. "Security?" No answer. The footsteps continued, steady and measured. They stopped right outside my office. The door handle turned slowly. The door opened. Nobody was there. But I smelled something. Palm wine. Lawrence's favorite drink. "Lawrence?" I whispered. The air in the room shook. Banjo and I looked at each other. I put it on speaker and answered. "Hello?" Static. Then, faintly, "Both of you listen." We leaned closer to the phone. "The mast, Benue, not an accident. Joseph paid 50,000. Joseph? The site supervisor who had found Lawrence's body. "Check his account. February Deposit. The line went dead. Banjo was already pulling out his laptop. He still had contacts at DX Communications who owed him favors. Within an hour, he had Joseph's personnel file. Joseph Akande, hired in 2018, clean record. But when Banjo dug deeper, he found something interesting. Joseph had deposited exactly 50,000 naira into his account 3 days before Lawrence's death. Cash deposit. No explanation. And 3 days after Lawrence's death, Joseph had bought a new motorcycle. Cash payment. We need to talk to Joseph, I said. He transferred to the Port Harcourt office 6 months ago, but I have his number. We called him that night. When he heard who we were, he immediately tried to hang up. We know about the 50,000, Banjo said quickly. We can go to the police, or you can tell us the truth. There was a long silence. Then Joseph started crying. I didn't want to do it, he sobbed. They said they would kill my family. My daughter was sick. I needed the money for her treatment. Who's they? Williams and another man, white man. I don't know his name. They came to my house at night, showed me pictures of my children at school, said if I didn't help, my children would have accidents too. What did they make you do? The safety harness. I was supposed to inspect it that morning. They gave me a different one. Looked the same, but they had done something to it, made it weak. I switched them. And you let Lawrence climb with it? I tried to stop him. I said we should postpone, that the weather was bad, but Lawrence, you know how he was, always leading by example. He insisted on going up first. Joseph was crying harder now. I hear him at night, calling my name. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm going mad. You need to go to the police, I said. With what proof? They were careful. No messages, no records, just my word against theirs. And Williams has connections. I'll be dead before the trial. He was right. We had no real evidence, just the testimony of a man who could easily be discredited or disappeared. That's when Banjo had an idea. What if Lawrence could testify? I looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Think about it, he continued. He's been trying to communicate. What if we could facilitate that somehow, make it stronger? You want to hold a seance? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not a seance, but Kemi mentioned a prophet who helped her. Maybe he can help us too. It was desperate. It was crazy. But we were out of options. The next Sunday, Banjo and I went to see Prophet Samuel. Kemi had called ahead, explained our situation. The prophet agreed to see us, though he warned us that what we were attempting was dangerous. The boundary between life and death exists for a reason, he said. When we breach it, we invite consequences we cannot foresee. But he agreed to help. The session was set for midnight. The prophet instructed us to bring something of Lawrence's. Kemi gave us his glasses. We sat in a circle in the church, candles providing the only light. The prophet began to pray in a language I didn't recognize. The temperature in the room dropped. The candle flames flickered, creating dancing shadows on the walls. Then the prophet's body convulsed. When he spoke, it was Lawrence's voice. "Thank you for coming." Kemi gasped. Banjo gripped my arm so tight it hurt. "Lawrence?" Kemi whispered. "I don't have much time. This is difficult, painful. We know about Joseph, about the harness, but we need more evidence." William's house. Safe behind the painting in his study. Combination is his daughter's birthday. Documents. Recording of him planning with the white man. Everything you need. Who's the white man? Contractor. British. Sterling Construction. They were going to split the Eastern expansion budget. Hundreds of millions. I was going to expose them. Lawrence, Kemi said, tears streaming down her face. Why are you still here? Why can't you rest? The prophet's face contorted in pain. When Lawrence spoke again, his voice was weaker. Unfinished business. Justice. But also, I made a mistake. The night before I died, I went to a babalawo. I was scared. I knew they were planning something. I wanted protection. A babalawo, a traditional medicine man. He gave me something, said it would protect me from death, but it didn't protect me. It trapped me. I'm stuck between worlds. Can't go forward, can't go back. The candles flared suddenly, flames reaching towards the ceiling. The prophet screamed, not in Lawrence's voice, but his own. He's fighting me, the prophet gasped. Something else is here, something dark. The temperature dropped further. Frost formed on the windows. In the shadows, I saw shapes moving, human-shaped, but wrong somehow. Too tall, too thin, joints bending in impossible directions. You disturbed the balance, a voice said. Not Lawrence, not the prophet, something else entirely. He belongs to us now. No! Lawrence's voice fighting through. Not yet! Not until... The prophet's body lifted off the ground. He hung in the air, arms spread wide, head thrown back. Blood began to seep from his eyes. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The prophet collapsed. The candles went out. We sat in darkness, breathing hard, too terrified to move. When we finally turned on the lights, the prophet was unconscious, but breathing. We rushed him to the hospital. He survived, but he never spoke of that night again, and he never held another session. But we had what we needed. The next night, while Williams was at a company dinner, Banjo and I broke into his house. We found the safe exactly where Lawrence said it would be. Inside were documents detailing the entire conspiracy, recordings of Williams disgusting Lawrence's murder, bank statements showing payments to Joseph and others. We took everything to the police. This time, they couldn't ignore it. Williams was arrested the next morning. The British contractor was arrested at the airport trying to flee the country. Joseph turned state witness in exchange for a reduced sentence. The trial was a sensation, but the strangest part came during Williams's testimony. He was on the stand, maintaining his innocence, when the lights in the courtroom began to flicker. It was just business, Williams said. Lawrence didn't understand that. He was too rigid, He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide, staring at something behind the prosecutor. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He's here! He's standing right there! Lawrence, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, make him go away. Make him go away! Williams collapsed, sobbing hysterically. He had to be removed from the courtroom. Later in his cell, he confessed to everything. Said Lawrence visits him every night. Said he couldn't take it anymore. Williams was sentenced to life and prison. He lasted 6 months before hanging himself in his cell. The guards found a note. "He won't leave me alone." Joseph got 5 years. The British contractor got 20. DX Communications underwent a complete restructuring. Kemi received a substantial settlement. Enough. I still see him sometimes in the corner of my eye, walking past my window at night. Not as a ghost, not as a memory. As a man who died twice, but refused to stay buried. Some say justice brings peace. But when you tamper with fate, with life and death, peace becomes a privilege you may never earn. So if you ever hear footsteps when you're alone, or smell palm wine where there should be none, maybe, just maybe, Lawrence is still out there, watching, waiting. Because some stories don't end. If someone you buried showed up a year later, what would you do? Do you believe corporate greed can go as far as murder? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments section. Kindly like, share, and please subscribe. See you next time.